Welcome to a state preview edition of Inside the Zone. He's Tom Davis, the sports editor at the News Sentinel. I'm Glimmerini. And at the beginning of the season, week one, these two teams squared off, and we're now seeing them as the last two teams alive playing for a state championship. I'm talking about the Bishop Luers Knights and the Snyder Panthers. Tom, really, to start it off, no surprise that these are the last two teams remaining and are at Lucas Oil Stadium.
No, not really at all. In fact, they both have gotten here doing many of the same things. They control the line of scrimmage, they run the ball well, they take care of the ball, they don't turn it over. And so, you know, the game plan for success for both these programs is very, very similar. They do have talent, but at this stage of the season, it takes more than just talent. Everybody's talented once you get into the regional and the semi-state and all that. It takes discipline and execution, and both these teams have done that.
And we're going to start off our preview with the 2A state championship game. That's the first game. It'll be on Friday night, 7 o'clock at Lucas Oil Stadium. Indianapolis Ritter battling Bishop Luers, and obviously Luers is used to this scenario, is used to being on this big stage. 23 straight wins in the postseason. The seniors trying to close out their career without losing in the postseason, but it's going to be a tall task. This is a really, really tough, both on paper and from what you've heard from other people, this is a tough Indianapolis Ritter team.
Yeah, I've been told by people that have seen Ritter play that Luers is in a world of trouble. I'm not ready to go there yet. I doubted them last week, and they proved me wrong in a big-time way. They jumped on Andrean 28-7 and never looked back, and they did it by running the ball and also creating pressure on Andrean. And so I'm not ready to go against Luers quite yet, but everybody that has seen Ritter play says they run the ball extremely well. What they do is they get out to a lead and they work the clock against you, and you're in a world of trouble. And they would go down to the Wrights Bowl in Evansville, a legendary stadium, and just dominate Evansville modern day. And they can do it also passing. Their quarterback threw for 238 yards last week in the Wrights Bowl against modern day. So they have a very balanced offense, but they like to get a lead, they like to work the clock, you know, all the things that Snyder and Luers like to do.
And when you take a look at, you said Evansville Modern Day, that's the team that Luers played in the state championship last game. You can score compare all you want, and it's different classes of seniors. But you're talking about games where the winners in the 40s and the losers in the teens.
Right.
41-17 was the case last year for Luers over Modern Day, and then this past week it was Ritter 49. Modern Day 14. So very similar numbers on paper when you're taking into account a common opponent.
Absolutely. And I tell you, the whole key to success for Luers is going to start up front with that defensive line. Ritter's quarterback is so good, they're going to have to get pressure on him right away and often. And that'll allow the athleticism in the Luers defensive backfield to really be able to play the ball, jump routes, get interceptions. But if the Ritter quarterback is comfortable, Luers is in a world of trouble. So they have to pressure him with their defensive line. And then with Jalen Smith, he's so versatile defensively. He can blitz and get sacks, or he can drop back into coverage and cover anybody that Ritter has. So they have to keep Ritter off balance with him, mix up what he does, and so that they never know where Jalen is.
Yeah, Ritter's offense not only good, 50-plus points a game, 51.3 points a game this season, taking on some pretty good competition, so you know Luers has their work cut out there. Offensively, we've seen since Steve Kiefer has taken over, and we talk about this every week, they've been running the ball more. They did that in Andrean, even though Mike Rogers scored their first touchdown on a nice pass from Quinn Cook. How do they establish the run? Is that going to be the big focus for this offense so that they can kind of loosen up the defensive backs and maybe get a few, drop a few passes in there this week?
Well, very similar to the defensive line is key to the success of the defense. The offensive line is going to be key to the success of Luers' offense. Now, Jalen Smith can run the ball with some mediocre blocking. He's that talented. And Jaquel Cooper and Charles Gaston also had nice efforts last week as well. But if the Luers offensive line can really block well and create holes, that opens up opportunities for Luers to get big runs. And that will be very critical, because what Luers' offense wants to do is not, I mean, if they get big plays, that's great, but they really want to run 4 yards, 6 yards, 4 yards, 6 yards, and work the clock. Keep Ritter's offense off the field. If the quarterback is over on the sidelines, he can't complete passes. And so Luers' offense really has to be methodical and work that clock so that Ritter doesn't get the ball. That's the #1 way to stop Ritter's offense, is not to allow them to have the ball.
And one of the things that always plays a big factor, I think, is a familiarity factor. And we mentioned that Luers has been here a lot. Steve Kiefer took his team down to Indianapolis, won a state championship in 1985. That kind of kicked off the era of Luers dominance. They've got 10 state titles as a whole, second in the state, only behind Chatard by 1. And Chatard will probably pick up a 3A state title this weekend. So
I don't know. Hamilton Heights is pretty good. They beat the living snot out of Mishawaka Marion.
If I was a betting man, I would bet on Chatard, but that's just me.
Yeah.
So as far as this program goes, how confident are these Luers guys, knowing it's not their first rodeo down in Indianapolis, and we've seen Jalen Smith and Michael Rogers, especially last year, really take over down at Lucas Oil Stadium before?
Well, you mentioned Michael Rogers, and that pass from Quinn Cook to Michael Rogers, very, very vital, because if they can at least pass some to keep the defense honest, that opens up their running game. So that was nice to see Quinn Cook make that connection and open up that. But you're right, Bishop Luers' kids, they've been here and done that. And they're not going to be awed by Lucas Oil Stadium. They're used to playing on field turf. This is just routine to them. And these seniors, I tell you, the mantra for these seniors ever since day one in August has been, we want to four-peat. And so that is one advantage that they absolutely have over Ritter. And Ritter's an experienced program too, but not like Luers. There is no experienced program like Luers. They've done this so many times, 15 times they will have gone down there. So that's really going to be an advantage for them.
When you take a look at Luers, they could finish the seniors 24-0 in their career. Considering that there's only been one team in state history that's won 4 consecutive state titles, we're talking Warren Central from 2003 to 2006. Would this senior class go down as the best senior class in Fort Wayne football history?
Oh, based on the success that they've had. Now, it's tainted a little bit in that they're playing 2A. And the Snyders and Dwingers and those programs, they're playing much larger schools and tougher competition once they get deep into the tournament. So you could make that argument that it's 2A, so not necessarily, but hey, 4 state championships is 4 state championships. It's hard to argue with 24-0. So yeah, they're certainly legendary.
And because of the new ruling, regardless of whether Luers wins or not, they will be moving up a class into 3A next year because they've accumulated enough points to move on. Of course, that's a new rule. We'll see how it plays out next year.
It's always good to punish people for success.
Here's what I don't understand about the rule. It's only, they're using it in a 2-year window as opposed to a 4-year window. Now, that said, we have a lot of the same old teams playing in the state championship games this weekend when it comes to classes 4A through 1A. But you're really punishing the kids, I don't want to say that are left behind.
Next year's kids.
Exactly, because of this rule.
Who don't have Jalen Smith.
Exactly, rather than taking into account a full 4 years.
You know, this segment's not long enough for me to talk about class sports and the IHSA's rationale and things. Here's the dirty little secret. Class sports has benefited the parochial schools. No ands, buts, ors, ifs about it. Look at basketball, look at football. It is geared to benefit the parochial schools. Here's some numbers for you. In 4A, it's been 6 years since the public schools won that state championship. In 2A, 6 years, Harding being the last public school. In Class A, 5 years. And in 3A, it's only been 2 years. Parochial schools dominate the 4 lower classes. 6 of the 8 teams playing this week in those bottom 4 classes are parochial schools. And so, really, class sports does nothing but help parochial schools. If you think it gives the little guy opportunities, you're dead wrong. It gives the Canterburys of the world and Luerses of the world opportunities. Schools that, quite frankly, can go out and select students to a degree. And so, you know, I disagree with punishing kids for success. Teaches a bad life lesson, but I disagree on a bigger picture, class sports.
Yeah, well, I
but
saw,
not in football.
Well,
I understand football.
Yeah, football, you have to have a dividing line somewhere.
Right.
You know, I'll take this back to when I worked in Arkansas. They went through the whole process of the state going to a qualifier where, because of the high levels of participation in private schools, the attendance was multiplied by 1.3 because basically what it did, if I want to go, you're right, we don't have time in this show to go over it all, but it basically bumped up all the private schools one class, and it seemed to be more fair across the board. And it's funny that that Arkansas would go to a more progressive system than the state of Indiana. That seems to make more sense.
He
but
said that, Arkansas
such it
people.
is. Yeah, I don't expect this segment to be real popular in Arkansas, but it is kind of shocking that this is what we've come up with.
I can see doing that, or I could see having a parochial tournament and a public school tournament.